Good afternoon. Welcome to another edition of the Uplift with Vision, at Vision, in conjunction with Vision. I love it. I'm Reverend Patti Paris, the Senior Minister here at Vision. I welcome you here today. It's a lovely day. It's a wonderful Monday. It's the last day of November. It's November 30th, and we're going to talk a little bit more about what Ernest Holmes had to say about. But before we do that, let's start in prayer. I recognize that all life springs from the one life, the one energy, which we call spirit. We know that it has infused itself in the manifest universe. It is indeed the body of God. Everything in the manifest universe is an outpicturing of a thought in the mind of God. In that universal intelligence springs all of the individualities, all of the diversity of all life. And yet we know at the base, at the root, it all springs from the one. The multitudes, the dimensions, the incredible dynamic differences, individualities, and uniquenesses all spring from this one life, from this one energy, from this one universal intelligence, which has sought and found a way to know of itself in form. We know that all life everywhere is some part of the life of God's. So we give this time over for that, just to explore the truth of who we are and who we are in this thing called life. And so it is. Amen. So, good afternoon. I got a word that I want to share with you, and that word is comfort. And the word comes to us from Charman. She had asked for it. I know it was a while ago. I think it was actually even before the election. But anyway, I got to it. I'm so excited because I had put it down and I was working on other things, and then I came back to it. It's a real interesting word because, Ernest Holmes didn't define the word comfort as much as he used it in the context of we all know what it means. And so I go back to, the 23rd Psalm is where I go with that word comfort. And of course, Ernest Holmes did as well. The 23rd Psalm, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. And Ernest Holmes, of course, made reference to that quote. It's a very popular quote. And, it's one of the things that I find interesting about quotes that people, pull from the Bible, because that is a very comforting idea. The idea that we're never alone, that Spirit is around us all the time, surrounding us, holding us in its loving embrace, lifting us up, allowing us to see truth, to know truth, to walk in truth. And so when you do, who could be afraid of anything, right? Of course, the rod and thy staff, they comfort me because thou art with me, because Spirit is with me. And it's interesting for me, I go back to the rod. In some people's minds, in some people's quoting of the Bible, the rod wouldn't be a very comforting thing, right? You know that all biblical expressions, spare the rod and spoil the child, that people have used for generation after generation after generation as an excuse to beat their kids. That's really what it was. Anyway, this idea that the rod is used to spank a child, and the thought that they had ever gotten it from the Bible to begin with is really one of those old urban myths, because the phrase spare the rod and spoil the child does not show up anywhere in the Bible. It just is not there. That's, again, like I said, one of those urban myths, things I guess parents used to use to scare children. The closest that you can get to it is this quote in Proverbs 13, which says, whoever spares the rod hates their children, but the ones who love their children are careful to discipline them. And so now we go back to the quote about the rod and the staff comforting us. We go to this quote that says about being careful to discipline children. And you begin to realize that the rod and the staff were not to spank children, or it wasn't to beat us into submission, but the rod and the staff were used by the shepherds to guide the sheep in the right direction. That's why it says about he who loves his children is careful to discipline them. So the rod and the staff is comforting in that it gives us direction, right? You know, years and years ago, when a shepherd was out in the field with his flock, the rod would be in one hand and the staff would be in the other. And a lot of times, the shepherd would use it as sort of like a portable fence, right? He would hold both of the sticks up long ways and he would push the little sheep together. You know, he would gather them together by using the rod and the staff as sort of like a guiding poles. And so he could gather them together. He could go, you know, point them in the right direction. And that's really what the rod and the staff is for. It is for pointing us in the right direction. And in that quote about children, of course, whoever spares the rod, you know, he says hates their children, but it is children without guidance are a miserable lot indeed, is really what they're saying. So this idea of comfort, you know, I go there with that, this idea that that spiritual intelligence is all around us, and we make ourselves available to it, like the rod and the staff. It will always steer us in the correct direction. It'll always take us in the right place. Now, Ernest Holmes in 1948, he wrote the book, It's Up to You. And he said this, he said, naturally, we want to heal ourselves of hurt feelings, right? Or this fear of what other people think about us. And then he goes on to say, but how comforting is it to know we do not have to heal ourselves of what other people think of us or of anyone. And so again, he's using the word comfort to reassure us, right? Just to reassure us that how good it is to know we're not doing the work ourselves. Spirit is doing the work through us. He goes on to say, let's begin by trying to love all people. It can be done as we come to understand our shortcomings are merely diseases, just like measles and mumps. Just some place in our thinking that has become warped, and we can no more censor him than we can condemn ourselves from holding a distorted viewpoint. So what he's saying is, how comforting is it to know I don't have to do the work. I'm not doing the work, right? Even the forgiveness work that I'm doing, and the letting people, you know, go, letting them, holding them harmless from their behavior, their unskilled behavior, and knowing I exhibit unskilled behavior as well. So this idea that it is comforting to know we don't have to heal ourselves, and we certainly don't have to heal ourselves of someone else's opinion of us. That's just none of our business, is it? It is none of our business. And so we are comforted in the fact that Spirit is in charge and all is well. It has nothing to do with us. It only has to do with our willingness to hold other people harmless, our willingness to forgive, which of course, you know, remember, we're not talking about condoning. They're two different things. We're talking about loving all people, forgiving all people their shortcomings. Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do, right? People's shortcomings. And what Ernest Holmes is saying, it's a comfort to us to know that we're not the ones actually doing the work. Spirit is doing the work through us. We are just the willing vessel by which Spirit can do the work through us. And you know, I came to this article, which was in a Science of Mind magazine from April of 1942. Again, he talks about comfort. He refers to comfort, and he says this: the only thing that matters to us who practice, I'm just saying this on the side, who practice the science of mind and spirit, he says this, the only thing that matters is, are we obtaining desired results? And do we believe there is a law of science of mind and spirit which can bring greater peace, comfort, joy, into our experience? Now that is a profound question for him to throw out there. Do you actually believe that the science of mind and spirit works? Do you actually believe that this particular philosophy can change your thinking and can change your life? Because that is a fundamental question before you go one step further on this spiritual path. Do you believe that this spiritual philosophy can change your thinking and change your life? Because if you can, and if you practice it diligently, if you continue to go back to your meditation cushion, you continue to go back to affirmative prayer, he says, it can bring greater peace, comfort, and joy into our experience. And who would not want more of that? Right? Who would not want more joy, more peace, more comfort in our lives? Of course, everyone would. And so this article in this April 1942 Science of Mind magazine is titled A Suggested Experiment. And this is really what I want to leave you with when it comes to comfort. He says this: I've been making it a habit to spend a few moments every day making the following declarations. And so I'm going to make these declarations for you. I'll say them slowly, so maybe you want to write them down or listen to this over again. Here's Ernest Holmes' declarations so that we can move closer to comfort and peace and joy, regardless of what is going on around us, right? Because he wrote this article in April of 1942. So we know World War II was going on. It was raging around the globe. So this was his offering on how we can move through even the most chaotic times of our lives with an increased sense of peace and joy and comfort. He starts here. I am filled with inexhaustible energy of life. I am filled with limitless enthusiasm for living. There is a deep calm at the center of my being, which is undisturbed, which is forever at peace with the universe around me. I know that the power of good prevails, and that there is being worked out right now in the minds of people everywhere a divine pattern of freedom, protection, and cooperation for all people. I know no thoughts of doubt can enter my consciousness. There is nothing in me that receives them. I live in the buoyancy of spirit. There are no doubts in my consciousness. I have an ever-deepening appreciation of all people and an ever-deepening sense of gratitude for the knowledge that the spirit cannot be assailed. I know that good is finally coming to everyone and that all problems are solved. Neither fear nor self-pity can operate through me. I am alive with life, with joy, and continuously upheld by a deep and unshakable conviction that there is a presence and a power and an intelligence in the universe which is working out a perfect pattern for human conduct and relationships. I rest in peace, in joy, and in love. I know that this is not only true of myself, but it is true of every person who lives. Now, that was written in 1942, but we can sure use it right this moment, can't we? Replay it, write it down, make those your affirmations of truth for the next several days. Know that we can abide in the peace, in the joy, and in the comfort anytime we choose. That we can go within to the depths of our souls, to that place that is anchored in the oneness within us, and know peace and know joy and know comfort any moment of the day or night when maybe our minds are pulling us astray, when maybe the mind chatter becomes too much and we can't find peace. Here's our affirmation. These words that were written by Ernest Holmes become our daily affirmation to remind us that peace, that joy, that comfort is just an affirmation away. And when we remember who we are, we remember that that seed of perfection that is nestled within us is a place we can go to any moment of the day or night to remind ourselves to bring that sense of peace and joy and comfort to ourselves from our soul, because our soul knows all is well to begin with. Let's pray out. I give great thanks for this teaching, for this science of mind and spirit, which I know holds us in its loving embrace always. I know that as we speak truth, as we remember truth, as we surround ourselves, our reading and our thinking and our music and our relationships are all lifted. For this teaching is oneness. This teaching is the truth that God is all there is, that the life that we live is the life of spirit living through us and as us in the world, and that all of the qualities of God are qualities of us, from abundance to wisdom and everything in between. We know there is only one life. It is God's life. It is whole, perfect, and complete right here, right now, and it is our life. Giving great thanks, I just simply let it be. And so it is. So good to see you. I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. Tune back in. Oh my gosh, it's going to be December 1st. Maybe it's time to go back to 365 and see what December has in store for us. I will see you tomorrow. From my heart to yours, Vision, we are love. We are one. There is no separation. I will see you soon. Bye-bye.